She had faced something no mother ever wants to face, a cancer diagnosis, months of silence, a world watching and wondering. And when she finally came back, stronger and steady, she did not give a formal press statement. She did not announce anything dramatic from a podium. Instead, she stood in a grand castle with a group of sportswomen, and she talked about her children. She talked about touch rugby in the backyard. She laughed about not wanting to get tackled by her eldest son. And then, almost in passing, she let the world in on something small, sweet, and completely real. Her youngest boy, Prince Louis, had taken up rugby too. It was 7 words. It was nothing, really. And yet, within hours, those 7 words were everywhere. When Catherine, Princess of Wales, walked into Windsor Castle on January 15, 2026, there were already thousands of people around the world paying close attention. Every public appearance she made was still being watched with a kind of relieved intensity, the intensity that comes after a long scare. After everything the world had witnessed over the past 2 years, from her cancer diagnosis in March 2024 to the months of chemotherapy to the careful, slow return to public life, people were not simply watching her out of curiosity. They were watching her because they cared. And on this particular afternoon, dressed in a sharp red Alexander McQueen pantsuit with a ruby necklace resting at her throat, she was hosting England's women's rugby team at the castle to celebrate their World Cup win from September 2025. It was her first solo royal duty of the new year, and even before she said a single word, royal watchers noticed something. She looked well. She looked calm. She looked like herself again. The reception was warm in the way that Catherine's public appearances often are. She has always had a gift for making people feel at ease, for stepping out of the formality that surrounds royal life and just talking to people like a real person. On this afternoon, she moved through the room and chatted with players and staff, asking questions, laughing at the right moments, genuinely curious about the sport and the women who had won a World Cup for England. And at some point during those conversations, the topic turned, as it often does when Catherine speaks, to her children. She mentioned that her family plays rugby at home. She talked about how Charlotte joins in, even though she is not yet playing at school. She made a joke, the kind of joke only a mother makes, that Prince George is growing so fast that she absolutely does not want to be tackled by him anymore. And then she said it. She said that Prince Louis is playing touch rugby and that it is a great game. 7 words about a 7-year-old boy. But they landed with a warmth that was impossible to measure. Within hours, those words were being shared across every platform where royal news travels. Social media filled with reactions from people who had followed Catherine's journey through illness and recovery, and who, hearing her talk so naturally and happily about her youngest child, felt something shift in their chests. This was not a carefully staged press moment. This was a mother, laughing in a room full of rugby players, casually mentioning that her little boy is out in the garden kicking a ball around. And somehow that ordinariness, that completely human detail, became the thing people could not stop talking about. To understand why this moment hit people the way it did, it helps to understand what the months before it looked like. In January 2024, Kensington Palace had announced that Catherine was undergoing planned abdominal surgery and would not return to official duties for some time. The news was concerning, but the palace stayed tight on details, which is their standard approach. Then, in March of the same year, something unusual happened. Catherine herself appeared in a video, filmed outdoors in what looked like a garden, wearing simple clothing, looking tired but composed. And she told the world that she had been diagnosed with cancer and was undergoing chemotherapy. She did not name the type of cancer. She spoke with care and deliberateness, choosing every word with the awareness that millions of people would hear it. And she said something that stuck with everyone who heard it, that it had taken time not just to recover from surgery, but to explain everything to George, Charlotte, and Louis in a way that was right for them, in a way that they could understand. She said she had told them she was going to be okay. She said she was well and getting stronger. She said that having William by her side was a great comfort. And then she disappeared back into a necessary privacy, one that she had earned and that her family needed, while the world waited and hoped. The months that followed were difficult to watch for those who genuinely cared about her. William was regularly photographed alone at engagements. King Charles was also unwell. The whole atmosphere around the royal family felt fragile and uncertain, and through all of it, the public held a kind of collective breath for Catherine. She appeared briefly at Trooping the Colour in June 2024, riding in the glass state coach with her children. It was the first time many people had seen her in months, and the reaction was overwhelming. Prince Louis, as he tends to do at formal events, provided some memorable moments of his own, dancing at the balcony, pulling faces, radiating the kind of joyful chaos that only the youngest child of a large family can manage. But people's eyes kept going back to Catherine. She was there. She was present. She was watching the flypast and standing with her family and smiling. For many people, that was enough. In September 2024, she released another video, this one more settled, more peaceful in tone, in which she said she had completed her chemotherapy treatment and would be slowly returning to public life. She spoke of what illness had reminded her, to be grateful for simple things, for loving and being loved, for the parts of life that are easy to take for granted when everything is going well. The video showed glimpses of her with William and their children in easy, unposed moments. It showed her father playing cards with the grandchildren and with William. It felt genuine in a way that formal announcements rarely do, and it moved a great many people who had been quietly worried for months. Then, in January 2025, came the news that her cancer was in remission. The relief was enormous, felt not just by those who know her personally, but by the millions around the world who had followed the story, who had found themselves genuinely invested in how it turned out. And from that point, Catherine began the careful work of coming back. She returned to public duties in 2025, though on a reduced schedule that she chose deliberately, prioritizing her children and her health over any pressure to be seen. She made her first public speech in over 2 years at the Future Workforce Summit in London in November. She appeared at Wimbledon. She stood with William at remembrance events. She was photographed at the Trooping the Color in June 2025, this time looking stronger, more settled, more present in a way that was noticeable and noted. She and William had spoken in interviews and in their carefully chosen public moments about how they handled everything with the children. She had said that hiding things from them simply does not work. They told George, Charlotte, and Louis about her illness. They explained it in ways that were honest and appropriate for each child's age, and she had reassured them that she was going to be okay. When Louis had apparently said, after the death of Queen Elizabeth in 2022, that she was now with great-grandpa, it gave the world a glimpse of the kind of child he is, intuitive, tender, bigger in his feelings than his small frame might suggest. He was 4 years old when he said it. He was 7 years old in January 2026 when his mother stood in Windsor Castle and told the England women's rugby team that he is playing touch rugby and that it is a great game. Royal watchers reacted with a tenderness that is hard to overstate. Comments poured in across platforms. People wrote that hearing Catherine talk about her children so easily and joyfully, after everything, made them emotional in a way they had not expected. They pointed out how natural she sounded, how warm, how completely unlike the stiff and measured language that public royal moments usually carry. Someone on social media wrote that it was the most normal and beautiful royal moment they could remember in a long time. Others commented on the image of this family, in some private corner of their large homes, running around together and playing rugby, Louis in among it all, and giving everything he has to every second of it, which anyone who has watched him at public events will recognize as exactly the energy he brings to the world. Catherine also spoke at the same engagement about something she clearly believes in, that children should not be put into boxes too early when it comes to sport. She said they should not be pigeonholed into boys' sports and girls' sports. She said that up to a certain age, playing together regardless of gender is wonderful, and that she is glad her children experience sport that way. It was a quiet but meaningful point, made in a room full of women who had just won a World Cup, women who understand, perhaps better than most, what it means to be told that a sport is not for you. Catherine has been the patron of the Rugby Football Union since 2022, taking over the role from Prince Harry when he and Meghan stepped back from their royal duties. It is a role she has embraced. And on this afternoon, talking about Louis playing touch rugby in that same casual, enthusiastic way she talks about everything her children do, it was clear that the sport has found a genuinely engaged champion in her. There was another detail that caught the attention of people watching the coverage from the January engagement. Catherine had driven herself to Windsor Castle that afternoon. Footage circulated on social media showing her arriving behind the wheel of a dark car, stepping out in the rain, holding her own umbrella, wearing an Alexander McQueen suit and stilettos. It was such a simple thing, and it made people smile in a way that said everything. Someone on social media called it iconic. Someone else noted that driving in stilettos alone deserves respect. Another person said it was pure class. And beneath all of those reactions was something that is hard to fully articulate but easy to feel. Relief and affection, and the particular joy of watching someone you have been worried about simply getting on with their life. Royal commentators who spoke to media in the days following the engagement were consistent in what they said. Richard Fitzwilliams, a royal expert who has followed the family for years, spoke about the importance of Catherine's growing public presence as the year began. He described her as a standout member of the royal family and said that with the continued improvement of her health, she would be a key figure for the monarchy in 2026 and beyond. He said that her popularity is real and significant, that both she and William are deeply valued by the public, and that her influence on people's connection to the royal family, on fashion, on causes she champions, is something that matters for the institution as a whole. These were not empty compliments. They were observations grounded in what the numbers show. Catherine's public appearances generate enormous attention, and the warmth directed toward her is genuine and deep. At the end of 2025, Catherine and William had posted a carousel of photographs from the year on their social media, personal moments, behind-the-scenes glimpses, quiet snapshots of a year that had been marked by recovery and return. There was a close-up of lighting candles on Holocaust Memorial Day. There was a glimpse of Trooping the Color from behind the scenes. There was Catherine presenting tennis champion Jannik Sinner with the men's singles trophy at Wimbledon, a moment that had been especially anticipated and celebrated because it was her return to an event she loves and that loves her back. The caption on that post was simple: "Thank you for a brilliant 2025 and looking forward to 2026. It was a statement of forward motion. It was two people, and by extension one family, choosing to face the next year with openness and gratitude. Louis turned 8 on April 23, 2026. And as they do every year, William and Catherine marked the occasion by sharing a new photograph of their youngest child. The palace also shared a short video, Louis jumping, running, playing outside, full of the energy and mischief that has made him a beloved presence whenever he appears publicly. The world reacted as it always does to Louis, with delight. He has an extraordinary ability to be completely himself in whatever moment he is in, whether that is a formal balcony appearance or a garden video on his birthday, and people find that quality magnetic in him in the same way they find it warming in his mother. What Catherine's January comments about Louis really did, what made royal watchers stop and feel something beyond the usual interest in royal news, was remind people that behind every public appearance, every formal engagement, every piece of carefully worded palace communication, there is simply a family. A mother who thinks her youngest son would love a particular dance routine she just watched. A woman who laughs at the thought of being tackled by her increasingly tall eldest child. A parent who took her children to the garden during her recovery and played rugby with them because that is what families do. Because that is how you hold ordinary life together when extraordinary things are happening to you. Catherine did not need to give a formal statement about Louis. She did not need to issue a press release. She just talked the way mothers talk, and the whole world listened. The story of Catherine's return to public life is, at its heart, a story about resilience that does not announce itself. It is not dramatic in the way that royal drama usually is. There is no scandal here, no conflict, no clash of personalities. There is just a woman who got very ill, who protected her children through it, who took the time she needed, and who came back, not with fanfare but with a red suit and a laugh about rugby and 7 words about her little boy that made thousands of people feel that everything is, quietly and genuinely, going to be all right.